Welcome back to another video. Not sure why I started the video like that, but anyways, today I want to talk to you guys a little bit about, conversing in the DMs, right? We personally convert a lot of our clients, pretty much all of our clients, all of our sales via direct messages, Facebook Messenger chats, and we actually just ran a little promo last week, which lasted about 72 hours. We did just shy of 12K in 72 hours. So I figured it would be a good time to talk about some of this stuff, talk about some of the actual conversations I had, because this was a really cool, unique scenario where we had 3 different clients, and all 3 of them were completely different conversations. And if this was some information that I would have had when I first started my online business or I first started selling offers online, it would have been a game changer for me, right? That was hands down one of the hardest parts about me running my business, right? I struggled in the convos. I created a lot of problems in the convos. And realistically, I had no idea what I was doing. So I figured I would shoot you guys a video, run through some of the conversations and give you guys breakdowns of kind of how I went into those conversations and what made them different. And the best part is all 3 of these conversations actually turned into multi-$1,000 sales and a relationship that just started because we're going to end up working with them for months to come. And before we actually dive in, I'll kind of break down this post that I wrote inside of our Free Thinking Fortune Builders community. If at any time you guys would like to have access to us and learn about how we operate our business as we're actually operating it, we literally share everything we're doing as we're doing it inside of our group, and you can join in the actual comment section. So if you can notice, 3 conversations, 5K in sales, 3 different scenarios this week. Obviously, that's what I want to be talking about because each conversation was drastically different and the customer's relationship with me was drastically different. And I had to act accordingly, right? I had to actually converse with them accordingly because if I didn't, they probably wouldn't have ended up purchasing. So 2 2K sales and 1 1K sale. So person 1 commented on my post, had the offer in their hands within 8 messages, and the investment was made within a few hours. This person knew me. We've talked before. They've consumed content. They've consumed other trainings from us. They knew what we did, what we didn't do. There was very little resistance because the timing was right, and there was a very limited time opportunity for them to join us, so it pushed them to act. Person 2, I'd never even talked to this person 10 plus days ago, right? They've barely been in my group, so I went into this conversation from a completely different lens. I talked to them. I gave them some value. We actually talked back and forth about their business, what they were doing, their plans, etc., before casually injecting the actual offer that they commented about. So this is a big thing too, is I slowed down, right? Because I've never actually talked to this person. So I actually slowed down in that sales process intentionally because I've never talked to him before. So if they left a comment on my post and I was just like, hey, go buy it here, like they could have bought, but it's a very impersonalized experience, which is something to really think about when you're actually trying to make sales through conversations or through DMs. You got to listen to the people and kind of understand where they're actually at if you want to start shrinking the resistance or the amount of no's that you get in your conversations, right? You can't eliminate them completely, but it will definitely help if you start trying to create some awareness around the actual temperature of the person talking to you. Person number 3, been in my world for quite a while. They knew how we operate, what we do, and been looking to fix a couple problems in their business, but what we were offering was out of their budget. So instead, I found something that would meet them where they're at, right? I got clear on their actual budget instead of being like, if you can't take out a second mortgage, then, you're probably not serious about building your business or all that, predatory tactics that some people use in the DMs. I just figured out what would work for them. And then I met them with an offer based on what they actually told me, right? So I actually ended up cutting the time in half. And instead of, trying to pressurize them to, spending more money than they felt comfortable with, I've made an offer based on what they told me and just reduced the amount of time that we would work together, right? Very easy segue, and they feel very personalized versus, just pressuring people into, buying your thing, which you can't do with certain types of products, certain types of ecosystems. But since these are my own products, my own services, my own coaching packages, I do have the ability to be pretty elastic with price when I need to be, obviously without devaluing it, So that's a 30,000 foot overview of what I'm going to be talking about today. 3 different scenarios, 3 different conversations, and all 3 of them purchased. So let's actually dive in a little bit, talking about this as a whole, turning 3 conversations into over $5,000 in sales without taking calls, right? We did a little, as I mentioned at the beginning of this call, I did a little promo. We pulled in about 11.6K in 72 hours, but I really wanted to shed light on all 3 of these conversations because all 3 of them were different, and the scenarios were actually quite different for each one. A big part of what it comes back to is the prospect's awareness of you and what you do, and the ability to read the conversation and adapt accordingly. A lot of the times people want to just sell as fast as possible without like slowing down and looking at, what the person is saying or what they're actually looking to do. So to be clear, all 3 of these people commented on my post, a piece of content that I put out, and they raised their hand on it, and then I sparked the conversation off of there, right? This is a very powerful play when you're creating content. If you're creating any type of content in your business, you should be engaging and interacting with the folks and moving them along that customer journey, right? And when you do this, you do have the ability to move the conversation or the sales process up faster because, you can shrink that time frame it would take for them to just like sit in your community or watch all your content and kind of work themselves to the point of being ready to buy. But if you bake in this intimacy, you can actually start converting sales relatively quickly. So I'm not going to run through all of these verbatim, but I will kind of talk about what and why I was going into it. So the biggest thing is they commented on some of my content, so I just reached out to them, right? And it wasn't like, hey, I appreciate you commenting on my post. Here's a link to buy my shit. Like, that's not what I said. Like, it was just starting a conversation with this person, right? Talking with them, asking them how everything's been going, right? Reinforcing that they're currently doing something in business, and they said it was a hang up, right? They said they were struggling with a certain pieces of the business. So I actually offered to shoot them a little video, right? I said, hey, not a problem. Totally understand how there could be a problem in your business. I'll actually shoot you a video in the morning, shoot you a quick little Loom video breaking down how to use this piece in your business, right? They were super stoked for that. They appreciated it. And then I rickrolled into just continuing to talk to them, right? So like, definitely a good play to start. Less delivery on your end. You can create the content, market the stuff, grab some wins on the front, and stack some momentum. And then I told them I would send them the video in the morning. And then if you notice, what I did here is I just casually injected, and because you commented on my post about the special, were you keen on having some hands-on help from flipping myself over the coming months? And they were like, yeah, right? They literally said, yes, like they would love to have some more hands-on help. They were a little nervous about maybe being too early in the business, because sometimes we put, hard lines in the sand about who we like to have in our coaching program. So that was a concern of theirs. They said, am I too new? And I said, no, we would just probably work on something a little bit different with you, right? If you're coming into our tailor-made coaching offer just because we're working with other people around launching their products or their offers, doesn't mean that's what we have to work with you on, especially if you're just starting, right? So I'm pivoting it related to them, right? So this is also another thing to think about is if you have a coaching or a consulting offer and somebody's like, hey, I want to learn how to do XYZ, or I really want to do XYZ in my business, if you have the scope to help them with that exact thing, then that's the anchor point that you need to use for the sales process, not putting either what they're doing down or making your thing look better if it is not in your wheelhouse, right? If that makes sense. Like, this person let me know that they wanted to get really consistent with content creation, so that way they could start making some sales. So that was the game plan. Hey, over the first 90 days of being in our coaching offer, we'll work on building you a content cadence and a machine that you can repeat, right? We can always work on the monetization vehicle later, right? But I'm flipping it onto what they would actually want to do versus just like, hey, that's fine and dandy. Like, I understand you're trying to do that, but this is a really cool thing over here, right? I want to make it about them. It's the only reason somebody's going to buy. So then I sent them the offer doc. We close all of our sales with PDFs, right? Simple PDFs. We don't do sales calls or anything like that. Sent them over 11-page document. Then came the next day. The following day, I sent them the video, right? Breaking down how to use Google Drives and Docs and stuff like that. And they sent me a message back a couple hours later. I'm pulling the trigger. And that's the entire conversation, right? This was like over the span of maybe 12 hours. If you notice, from me sending the initial outreach message, I had the actual offer in their hands within 7 messages. And they purchased, right? They bought a $2,000 product from us. No calls, no nothing. Convert number 2, we were chatting back and forth about an offer for weeks, but the previous one was out of their budget. So we found an option that would work for them, right? As I was mentioning earlier, I found something that they could make work based on their goals, based on their actual budget, versus just being like, go take out a loan or a mortgage or do all this stuff to like buy my offer, right? Well, if you really want to do this thing with us, like we want to have you in, so let's find a way that it makes sense for you, and if we can make it work. If not, no big deal. So this conversation actually started with an inbound, right? They screenshotted a piece of content of mine and sent me a message. Tell me more, please. That's literally what they said. So I was pretty straightforward with what it was. If you notice, I literally responded with what the thing was, right? Oh, we decided to run a little special where we chopped $500 off 6 months inside of our coaching program. And then we also started playing around with some different financing options, which this is something that I wanted to reinforce because I already knew that this person was inquiring about other offers previously. They were asking about different financing options. So I basically just dropped the actual financing rates directly to their inbox. And they let me know they probably wouldn't be able to get that. So they actually flipped the conversation, right? Can we do half that? Can we do, I want to be in this offer with you and I want to do that, but I can't afford the full price. Could we do half? And by half, I don't mean like we just cut our actual product cost in half. It was like, hey, let's do half the time for half the cost in the coaching program, right? Give them a little 90-day trial, right? You pay us and we'll do 90 days. Ultimate goal is work with you 90 days, get some cash flow coming in, and then you can re-enroll for the next 6 months. And if you notice, they purchased within, I sent them the quick offer doc breaking down everything inside, right? We'll plug you in instead of the full 6-month commitment. We'll just do 90 days and we can retouch post 90 days if we want to keep rocking or not. And then I sent them the actual PDF for them to check out. They let me know that they had a couple things to do this morning. And then they said, send me over the checkout link. Send me the link to buy and I'll jump in after I drop my kids off at school. Sent it to them and they purchased, right? Now, number 3 is a unique one because I've actually never talked to this person before they commented on my post. I never had a conversation with them in the DMs. We never actually even had a talk, like chat. So I went into this conversation way different because I knew this person was probably cold. They didn't know me. They didn't know me that well. They might be starting to get to know me through the content that I've been creating, but like I wanted to embed my personality, who I am, have some fun, actually talk with this person and be human, right? Like interact with them. So initially right out of the gate, I did actually mention, hey, I saw you commented about our done for you offer, right? No obligation either way. But I wanted to put the cards on the table as quick as possible. I didn't want to like be like, hey, here's this checkout. I know we've never talked before, but I expect you to go buy something from me. That's not usually how it ends up working out. So I did want to plant the seed. I wanted to let them know pretty early on that I was starting the initial conversation with them because I wanted to, potentially have them join us in this offer. Now, we kind of had 2 different conversations at once. So realistically, we were talking about the offer, but I was also talking to them about their actual business. I was talking to them about what they were doing. I was giving my advice, giving them some tactics and tips based on the actual conversation we were having, based on everything that they were telling me that they were already doing in business, right? They had this goal that they wanted to hit by summer. And then I was basically just reinforcing that we could help them do that based on certain strategies, kind of how I would do that, right? Some self-paced information, offers, done for you services, like just opinions on what I would actually be doing if I was in their position. So if you notice, this conversation is a lot beefier, and a lot of the responses from me and her are a lot beefier as far as like what we were actually talking about, because I was dialing it back in the actual conversation, because they didn't really know, right? They didn't know me. They didn't know that much about me. So I just wanted to kind of reinforce that we were going to help them, right? I was giving them help for free, right? I was just talking to them about different things in the actual conversation. And then they followed back up and said, they wanted to catch some more details on it. And I just sent them a little PDF again. If you guys pick up the common theme, we talk with people, we create the content to capture the attention, we chat with them, and then we send them PDFs to actually close sales, right? So we kind of just ran through that. And then this person specifically wanted to know if there was financing options, either via PayPal or Stripe, which we offered. And then again, see if you guys can't really see these that well because it's too small, but we're talking about a myriad of stuff, right? They're asking about price, and then sending me another question about like, hey, what software do you use for this? And we're just having a chat, but I'm throwing in the offer at the same time, right? Like, hey, yeah, I would totally do this, ... And then, we also have this thing over here if you were interested. If not, no big deal. So we kind of just went through that process over the course of like a few days, and they bought, right? They purchased. So, and then this time we literally just sent a super basic Stripe link, right? So do you want to do 60 or not? Do you want to do the full 6 months, or just go with the initial 90 days? They're like, I want to lock in the 6 months. Let's do that. So they locked in an entire 6 months inside of our coaching offer, and I never even talked to this person 10 days prior, right? Like, never had a conversation with them. And they purchased. Now, as I was breaking down in the beginning of the post, or the beginning of this video, my go-to line in all of my sales process is no pressure either way. If it makes sense, I'd love to help you do X, Y, Z. If it doesn't, that's fine too. I like to really give them the opportunity to say no, because realistically, it's their decision. And this kind of changes the entire nuance of how you're actually talking to people. Instead of like, hey, I have this thing, and if you don't buy it right now, it goes away or whatever. Like, just putting the cards on the table and asking them like, hey, I think we could do some really cool stuff together. And, if you'd want to chat about that, cool. But if not, absolutely no big deal either way, right? It changes the positioning of how you're asking your potential prospects to actually buy your offers. It doesn't feel as pressurized. They're grateful for it. It makes them feel like they can say no, which they absolutely can, right? The relationship doesn't have to go up in flames because somebody says they don't want to buy your products, right? Like, maintain and build these relationships, and eventually they will start buying, even if they've told you no. The best thing we can do for our sales processes is become aware of the relationship that your prospect has with you, aka their temperature. Do they know you? Do they know anything about your business? Do they know, that you're a husband or a wife or a parent? Do they know that you run ads or you don't run ads? Like, we have to act accordingly based on the actual temperature of a customer or a potential customer, right? If somebody comes into my community and they don't even know what online business is, they're not going to want to buy a 6-month coaching program because they don't even know how to build a business. They don't even understand that building an online business is a real thing. Does that make sense? Like, we have to try to become aware of the temperature of the actual person you're talking to, because you're going to have to change accordingly, right? You talking to somebody who saw you for 60 seconds on TikTok versus somebody who's been in your group watching you for the last 6 months is a completely different conversation. Right? You can probably be a little bit more aggressive and a lot faster with sending invitations to the person who's been watching you for longer versus the person who just saw you for the first time on TikTok. They don't know much about you. They don't know about your services. They don't know about your products. They don't know about your offers. They don't know about your results, client results, etc. Versus if somebody's been consuming and binging all of your stuff, they know. They might even know how much your product costs. And if they're talking to you, they want to buy it, right? Number 2, Not sure why that closed. Number 2 is listen to them, what they want, what they're trying to do, where they're trying to go, what they're looking to fix in their life or business. You don't have to be the end all be all for everybody, right? If you don't have services or products that won't help somebody get to what they want to do, or if somebody comes to me and they're like, hey, I want to learn how to write blog posts that make a bunch of money with ad revenue. Well, I can't tell you that. I've never done that in my own business. I wrote a massive blog, but I did it incorrectly. I can tell you what not to do with a blog, but I'm not qualified enough to give you that expertise because I don't do that in my own business. Don't sell people shit if they don't need the stuff, right? Third, anchor in their things, anchor in their things into what you're going to help them with versus putting it down, right? If someone wants this membership, I have hundreds of trainings and solutions I can provide in a single product. That's a breakdown of like what's in our free thinking fortune builders community, right? We have so many different trainings, 4 coaching calls a month, 1 live workshop, right? There's so many different things that I can actually help people with. And I can probably find trainings and strategies that are already inside of my product to give them or reinforce like, hey, go watch this thing first because that's what you told me you wanted to do. Like I mentioned it with the one scenario, like the person told me they wanted to focus on content creation. Okay, so let's work on content, right? Worry about the rest after that's dialed in. And then lastly is let them decide. Let people feel comfortable saying no. You would be incredibly surprised by how often I tell people like no pressure, like, hey, it's all good if you don't want to do this. And if it doesn't make sense, completely no big deal. And this changes the entire experience of the conversation versus like the whole buy or die and like you have to buy this thing right now or it's disappearing like my dad. It's okay if they don't want to pay you right now, right? You don't have to burn that relationship down. And that's all I got for you guys today. If you guys do want the actual PDF that I broke down in this video, because I did notice that the text was a little bit small on the screen, so you might not have actually been able to see the conversations, drop a doc in the comment section and I'll fire it over your way so that way you guys can get a real-time example of what these conversations look like. Have a kick-ass day.